Hey everybody, how you going? Jonathan here, Mr. Acres, Central North Island, New Zealand. Beautiful day today. Just been loading up some grizzolineas. I think it's 80 on here, and just going to go out to a paddock and start planting up a new bush block. We'll start with some grizzolineas. So I've got compost plants, bucket to put some compost in to carry it around. I've got my hat if it gets sunny. I think I've got a drink bottle. So all I can do is grab you and we'll go out and get into it. Yep, it's a sunny morning. Sun in my eyes. But at least it's not windy and it's not raining. We've arrived at our destination. So you can see behind me, this is a strip that I've mown and chopped down over the last few months. And we're going to plant this out as a bush block. That's our boundary fence down this side. And this is where we'll be planting. So I'm going to do 3 lines of grizzolineas, and then we'll put some other plants in between them. I think I've got hebes and tea tree, whatever else I can find. Basically just to make a bush block to slow the westerly wind down a bit. So I've walked down and just laid the first line of plants. I've just come down to the far end so the sun's not in your eyes. I've just laid them out how far apart they're going, which is 2 paces, which is maybe 2 meters apart. And I'll do a middle row in those gaps, which you'll see, and then another row on that left hand side going up back in the other gap, so they'll be staggered. Oops, I've got 2 here. Take one of those back up. Yeah, so they're in the right place between them. I'll just move them over to the right. You can see my shadow over here, so I'll put them all the way down there. You can see how low in the sky the sun is this time of the year. My shadow is about 3 meters long. So this area is maybe 4 meters wide, and I think it's 50 meters long. I've got 25 plants down here so far, and they're about 2 meters apart, so you're in about 50 meters. So I'll start digging. I was going to use my post hole borer, but I'm not sure about with the old tangled up grass, possibly getting caught up on the ends of it, especially when you get to this thick kind of stuff here. So I bought my trusty shovel because it's pretty quick and they're only small holes. So if you grab your boots, grab a spade or a shovel, and we'll get into it. Well, that went pretty good. That was only 35 minutes. I got 25 of those grizzolineas in the ground, and they're in pretty much a straight line, which doesn't worry me. I wasn't aiming for a straight line, but obviously I was trying to fill the area methodically. So I've laid the other ones out down the middle. I've put them pretty much where they are going to go because I had no reference point otherwise, because I want to get a 3rd line all the way down this side here. It's pretty good soil too, actually. I'll just put a hole here and show you. I'm not sure goodness wise what's in it or not in it, but as far as texture, it's pretty good. I just whipped the top off, and all I was doing was loosening the bottom, throwing a little bit of compost in there and just giving it a stir. I only used 2 bags of compost for all of that. Having trouble with sweat rolling in my eyes and dripping on my glasses, I'll tell you that much. Actually, that's probably one of the other soils were a lot darker than that, but still got that nice friable, good drainage sort of a state. I'll probably give them a drink of water at the end, just because I can. We've got a tap away over there, so I'll plug in a hose. Well, I reckon now we should head back and have a cup of coffee, that is. And then come back, put the rest of these in the ground, maybe see what other plants we've got, and might be able to fill it in, and she'll be all done today. Bonza, let's go back. Oh, I just remembered. Got someone coming this afternoon to collect some plants from the nursery. Not a lot, 1 or 2. So I shall go and grab that for them out of the nursery while we're here. I think they're after a native fuchsia. These grow into a big tree. They're deciduous. One, if not the only deciduous New Zealand native. And let's pick them. Maybe that one. I think that one will do the trick. No, maybe. That one there. That's the fella. Let's take them that one there. So they have a fuchsia flower. They grow into a big tree and they have really interesting bark when they age. You can prune them, of course, because they're a tree, as opposed to a palm. I mean, you can't. Some trees and other natives, kauri trees and things like that, you don't tend to prune, but this thing you can. It's really difficult. I haven't got my handle for my phone and I've got a plant in the other hand and it's a bit tricky. But anyway, I promise you that cuppa, so let's go and have a coffee. Oh, well, that was good to stop for a cuppa. Came back full of energy, dug the rest and got the next 2 lines of griselinias in. So they're all in. A few stops here and there on the way with customers and emails and things that get in the way when you start getting back near the house and near civilization. But that's all good. So they're all in. I think there's 75 I end up putting in. So I've got some Hebes I'm going to stick in the gaps now, some of the gaps. And then I will see, I might wait just a little bit yet, maybe another few weeks or a month, and I might stick some manukas in, which is Leptospermum scoparium, and maybe coprosmas and things like that. I'll fill it in a bit more, that's for sure. But I'll get these Hebes in now, so they're a little bit scraggly, but they're fairly decent and they've got good roots, fairly decent height anyway, and got roots, so they'll be good. Hey, how you going? Well, it's the next day now. I ran out of time yesterday. Had the visitors collecting plants and I had some emails that I answered, and so time ran away on me. But anyway, we've got a fine day again today. Plenty of blue sky. Check the windsock out though. It's horizontal, so it's coming from the south. It's a little bit cool. Like I said, it's still fine. The weatherman usually refers to fine when there's no clouds. For me, I think fine is if it's not raining, that's fine, and if it's raining, then that's wet. So it's a good day. Just get dressed up. I'll take you out and show you what we got up to with those plants out the back. Excuse the wind if there's a bit of noise and my camera shakes a little, but just thought I'd show you because it's quite a good little project that got done. Let's go and have a look. So here we are back again. So I've got all the griselinias in, I've got all the Hebes in. So I put all the Hebes, which I think there was 48. They've gone in the gaps between the griselinias. So the plants are only about 4 feet apart, which is fairly close. But when you're doing revegetation, new bush areas like this, you want them close. So there's plenty of gaps in the middle here between these 2 griselinias here and all the way down. So I'm still going to add some pittosporums, some manuka, Leptospermum, maybe some coprosmas, and then I'll do that in a I'll see how the stock's going. Yeah, it might be another couple of weeks yet, but then I'll add some bigger tree type things maybe next year. As I was saying earlier on, this is to slow the wind down, which that's the west, so there's not much protection there. That's our bush block in there in the north, and that's the east, and that's pretty much south. So this is running almost north to south, this garden. Probably a bit off on an angle from that, but close to straight up and down. That's a bit better. So just to recap, I pulled the plants out of their bags. Just remember, when I scrape the weeds or moss or anything that's growing off the top, there's no use planting a plant with everything that's growing on top of the plant. All you're doing is planting weeds, which isn't the idea. So throw the rubbish away that's on the top of a root ball. Put them in the ground. Quite often it's a good idea just to give the top a cut, a nip back, like a lot of these griselinias could do with that. I'm not going to do it because I just want to let them go and see what happens. Some of them are really straight up like a skyrocket. And I'll show you this one here. Look at that one, it's like a skyrocket. So normally you'd cut that, but I'm just going to leave it and see what happens. It doesn't really matter. There's that many of them and it's in the bush. So dug the hole, threw some compost in, and I'm not going to stake and tie these. I think there's about 115, 120 plants in here. And I'm not going to put cages for rabbits or hares. Both of those ideas would be good, but only if it was 20 plants, but I'm not doing 115. So the wind may get them a bit. They're not like a tree, so they shouldn't sort of lean over. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll show you what else we've got going on out here in this paddock while we're here. I'll just walk around here. So we leave all this grass long. It did have some neighbouring farmers' stock on it once upon a time for a little bit. That wasn't working too well, so we just leave it like this. We're quite keen on all the birds. Brenna's a super avid bird listener watcher, so just for me to mow some of it and weed eat these paths and stuff, I had to get it past the line with her. We get larkspur and all sorts, sorry, not larkspur, that's a plant, skylarks and other things that nest in the grass, so we're treating it as a sort of a sanctuary. I have seen the odd mouse, but no, I haven't seen rats, so I wouldn't jump to that conclusion or to that thought. If you look in the distance, there is a ton of grass. Admittedly, most of it's shortish, but there's other bush blocks. So I don't think rats living in our grass is necessarily what they'd do. They've got thousands of acres to run around in. Anyway, we're not talking about rats. What we're talking about is, I've got this path here. I've got a couple of New Zealand totras that I put in late last year. Staked and tied them within an inch of their lives. But just over there is where I've planted. If I can lift my camera up, you might see. So I might actually, possibly next winter now, because I've got to chop all the grass down and it takes a bit of work to sort of deal to it a few times, but I might actually wave the new plantings over there in a big sort of a curve and sort of incorporate this totra. Probably won't chomp out all this grass. I don't need quite that much bush here. Plus I like the path through the grass. And then I've got the other totra down here. So I might do the same here. You know, it may just be a little valley, just sort of in around the totra, just like that. But just another finger of bush extending out just to bring these totras into the bush. Won't really matter whether I do or not. So then as we carry on down this little path, I like these paths through the long grass actually, I think they're cool. Might come out here and give them a mow on the ride on. So we planted these gum trees for firewood for the future, for our house, keep us warm over winter. And they're getting up there. A couple of them are quite thick. We won't cut them this year. That one's not huge, that one's not huge, that one's getting there. We don't need them 3 feet across or anything, but maybe just a little bit bigger than that. If I Stick my hand up here, you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3, 3.5 hands wide, so whatever that is. It's about 300, yeah, about 3 or 400 wide, foot, just over a foot. So it's getting up there, it's getting fat. We get it a bit bigger, but it's got a couple of big limbs on it too, so if we got desperate we could whip that left hand one off. And I also planted some carnuka and I trimmed the branches off to make them go upright. So these are Kunzia ericoides. So I've just put them along the edge of the paddock by our bush, so they can be future firewood as well. Got more of the carnuka firewood to stack along here. Stack hedge plantings. They're not particularly fat. They'll be another few years. That doesn't worry me. You know, they're a little bit bigger than my finger, but they're good hot burning, so they'll be good when they get up to just sort of like a rolling pin size or just a little bit narrower. And then we planted all of these 3 or 4 years ago probably. So these are gum trees, so these are future firewood. So they started off very small, and I had them in pots, and then I think I put them into, they were in very small pots, then I potted them up to bigger pots. They eventually got about that size. For some reason that one hasn't grown at all, but that doesn't matter. And we staked and tied them, battled the wind, staked and tied them, staked and tied, endless. He's got just a little bit of support. He's not too bad, but just a wee bit of support from a westerly. As you can see, we're down on a little bit of a valley down here, so we're down a bit lower, which means by the time they poke their head up the top, they've been well rooted in. So for the last, pretty much this year, they've been pretty good as far as wind goes. I've kept the stakes on. Now and again I loosen the ties. You can see they're fairly tight, so now and again I loosen those, but I've not dared pull the stakes out yet. But they haven't, they were a couple of them, we did have one there, it was staked and tied and it got a bit wiggly, so I redid it with a strap as well, like that other one, but it just pulled the whole lot over. So far these have been pretty good this year, and we've had some good winds. They're getting up there, but they must be getting rooted in, so I'm not pulling the stakes off yet. I'm just going to leave them for as long as they can stay. It'll end up being just ridiculous trying to keep the stakes on, or I'll get desperate and want the stakes somewhere else. There's about 30 here, so I'm actually looking forward to getting stakes off, and I'll regain my supply for any plantings I do. So they're looking good. They're up 4 or 5 metres. It's talking 15 feet, some of those, but they've got probably another 3-5 years before we can start harvesting. I'm guessing we'll start harvesting when they're ready. Got another little track up through here. I'll show you some other natives we've got growing out here on the paddocks. The paddock. If you saw my last, I don't know if it was the last video, but one not long ago, there was no, it wasn't the last one, a few back. You'll see it in the list. There's it's under New Zealand iris and peewees. So that was planted further along this avenue. We call this. These are birches. So this was just to get a link sort of out through the paddock to the old bush block and back to the house. And in there is where we put the birches and things. So we're looking at possibly doing wild flower patches on the left and the right, and we'll just do them and see how they go over the next year or two. Big green areas are good. The grass Grass gives nice big open spaces and makes all the other areas show up, the gardens and things. Here we've got Kawaka, Libocedrus plumosa, so that's a native. He's shaken about a bit, but he's staked and tied. You can see it looks like a true conifer, which it is, but you know, it's like you don't realise it's a native, or some people don't realise. They're sort of a mustardy green. They get big and bushy. You know, they'll get up like a big tree and they'll just be all bushy and green. We've got a couple in our bush, which I'll show you when we do a tour down there. So I've got a trio of them here. So they're protected a little bit because we've got hedge there and hedge and nursery over there. So they're, yeah, a little bit exposed but a little bit protected. I figured it was better than putting them, you know, right out around the corner here, at least until we get that bush growing, which is up there. Well, thanks for joining me today. Hope you saw a few things, got some ideas. If you haven't planted any plants lately, or haven't planted any plants ever, maybe, you know, a lot of people haven't planted plants, I would encourage you to. I'm just going to walk over here behind this hedge, stop that wind on me. It's so rewarding planting plants. You want to give it a go. Maybe you live in an apartment or a small house, or you've got no land. You can still do it. Pop down to the shop on the weekend, grab a petunia, grab anything. Probably grow a lettuce in a pot out on your deck. But you'll be surprised. You put it in and it grows and you'll be amazed. The feeling, it's like having a pet, except you don't have to water it, not as often. You don't have to feed it as often. It doesn't go to the toilet and make a mess. I tell you, it's the thing to do. Try planting. You'll be amazed what it does to your equilibrium, whatever that means. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have fun. Try and get out there and have a look around. If you like what you've seen, like it or subscribe. Send a comment. And from the middle of the North Island, New Zealand, I'm Jonathan. We'll see you next time. Woo!